If you open Word and click on New, you see something like this. You can create a blank document, or you can create a document based on one of the recent templates you've used. Or Microsoft has a lot of templates to suggest that you might want to use, and if you don't like those, you can click on categories of templates like letters. If we look at letters, there are a tremendous number of letters available, and these templates are often pre-formatted letters on a certain subject, and they have magic fields that you can fill in. So it's worth looking at these. You may find some that are very interesting and you may want to use as a basis of a template of your own. And if we go back, one thing you might want to do is look at this Take a Tour template. If we click on that, we'll create this, and this is a 8-page document that sort of shows you how Word works. Worth looking at. Some good information. Anyway, let's go back to File, New, and you see, because we use that template, it's now one of our recent templates, and it's no longer down here because it's sort of on our machine. Now, the other choice is to use a personal template, and these are templates that you've created, and I have 3 at the moment, and these are all old templates. They're from 20 years ago or so, and they don't really work anymore because they relied on features of Word 2000, which used a different macro language than Word currently uses. But I thought it's worth looking at what my letterhead looked like back in the day. If we click on this one, we see here's a letterhead, and it had my name up in the header, it had my phone number, and it had this magical 700 phone number. Remember, this was back in the day when area codes were unique to areas of the country, and my area code in Concord, Mass was originally 508, and then they split up the 508 area code because there were too many people getting fax numbers and other things, and so now they've split into 978 and so on. This 700 number, AT&T promised you a phone number for life. And remember, this is before you could port your phone number, and so it was a wonderful service. Not only did you have a unique phone number that was yours, worked sort of like an 800 number, but it had a lot of other features that allowed me to call myself and then do magical things from that call. Anyway, the phone number for life only lasted about 5 years before AT&T got rid of the service. Down here at the bottom, I just had the address and fax number and so on. And if I went down here and stuck in a page break to see what it looks like on the next page, and by the way, if I click here in the header, we see that now we can edit the header. We can see the font that I was using. Let's see, this is a Peugeot Demi font, Peugeot Demi Bold. And as you see, this is a first page header. It means that the headers are unique on the first page from all the other pages. So if I go back here to the document itself and put in some new lines, but if I stick in a new page, insert pages, page break, now we see what the headers look like on other pages. And down here at the bottom, basically I still have the same address field, but now I have the regular phone number, not just the fax number. And these were references back to the fields that you were supposed to fill in, but those references no longer work. I believe that this was the name of the person that the letter was being sent to, and then over on the right side it had my name and the date the letter was sent and the page number, page 2. So that was one sample template. I don't want to, this is I've created a new letter based on that template, but I don't really want to save it, so I'll cancel. If I now say File New and pick something based on the 2000 letterhead, you see here, by 2000 I was using my current email address because I bought the domain a year or so before. And now, by 2000, I had both a Florida address and a Maine address, so I needed a different format down here. So I have the two addresses down here at the bottom. And probably if I went to a second page, I'd see something like that. I don't know, let's see what's on the second page. Insert, page break, same sort of thing, although now the date is filled in because it references back to this magic field, which was filled in automatically when we opened the template today, July 23rd. It's the date created. There was a magic field back in the day. Okay, so those are templates. Down here I was repeating the same two addresses on the bottom of every page. So now if you want to create your own template, what you do is start with a blank document. And before you do that, I recommend that you go to File, Options, and go to the Save tab. And right here, you're going to find the location where your personal templates are saved. And initially that's going to be blank. And if you don't fill it in, I believe it's going to put them in your Documents folder and then in a folder under that called something like Custom Office Templates. But I wanted my templates to be on OneDrive so that I could get to them from any of my machines. And I created a folder under Documents on my OneDrive, which I just called Office Templates. And so you want to do that first so you know where they are. And then once you've done that, you go and you create a blank document. Okay? You have a blank document like this. Now the first thing I would consider is what I want the margins for my letters to look like, and what I want to use for a font, and what size font I want. So my letters these days are fairly short, so I probably want a little bit wider margins. So we'll go to Layout and we'll choose a margin. Normal margin is 1 inch left and right. A little bit earlier the margin was 1 1/4 inches on the side. Let's use that as our margins. The other thing I would consider is the font. Let's look at the normal font. We'll right click here, we'll modify it, and we want the normal font to be, you know, this is not a bad font. I've come to like this font. I would make it 13 or 14 points because that'll make the letter look a little bit longer at least. And that's good. So now we've set the normal font, we've set the margins. The next thing we need to do is insert a header. And we do that by going to Design, I think. No, Layout. Nope. Wrong again. How about insert? Since I said insert header, I should have guessed. We click on header, and we'll pick just a blank header, and now we have some other choices that have to do with header. I want a different header for the first page than the other pages. I don't need different odd and even pages. You do that if you're doing a book or something like that. So this is where I'm going to put my name and that line and phone number and so on. Down here is where I put the address. So first of all, I'll type my name. And I'll leave a blank line, and I'll type my email address. Now you see, Word was helpful and capitalized my name. I don't really want that, so we need to go back here and change that. I want this line right justified, so we'll go back to the Home tab, click on right justify. I think maybe I'll use my cell phone number in front of this, so I'm going to put a space, and then I'm going to put a bullet. So bullet is like something like Alt 0149. I need a space after the bullet, maybe 2 spaces. Now I'll put my cell phone number. Of course, that's not the real number, but you get the idea. Now, that font is not bad, but this I want in the font that I was using before. I like, I think it's Peugeot Demi, and maybe I'll do Peugeot Demi Bold. So I want the whole thing in Peugeot Demi, and I'm going to make it much bigger. So as I move my cursor down, it shows me how big it is. So let's go with that. All right, now here I'm going to put a line in. But before I do that, I always use a laser printer that's just black and white for my letters. But now I send a lot of my letters by email, and I send them as a PDF file. So it's probably worth adding a little color to the letterhead. So we'll select all of this, and we'll apply a color. And we can pick some standard color, maybe this one, light blue. Dark blue is too dark. We'll try that. I'd like a little darker than that. Let's go to more colors. All right. So if we move this a little bit over, that's good. Let's sort of like that. Maybe too dark, but we'll see. All right, and here I'm going to insert that line like I had in the other letterhead. And these 2 lines are a little too far apart. So I'm going to take this paragraph and change its specification. I'm going to do that by making, instead of 14 points, make it something like 10 points. And that brings them closer together. Now we'll put the line here. And to put a line in, you say insert, shape. You pick a shape like a line. And now you get this cursor that looks like a plus sign. And we put it at the beginning of the line. We draw across here. And if you hold shift down, it forces the line to go perfectly horizontal. And I want to end the line right there. And I want to then see the little ends here. If I right click on that end, I think I can change the characteristic of the line. So I can format the shape of the line. And the thickness of the line is 1/2 a point. Well, I want a thicker line, so I'm going to up it, and we can see it as I up it. You can see what it looks like. 2.5 points. I think that looks pretty good. And you know, we can put arrowheads and all this other stuff, but I don't need to do that. So that looks good. Now let's look at this paragraph, the characteristics of this paragraph. So I'm going to right click, say paragraph, and it has no space after it. So I thought maybe that the paragraph was, the reason they were so far apart from the line was because of that, but now, so what if I change this to a smaller number? What if I change it to like 6? It brings it closer together. This is still hanging a little far above it. I wish it wasn't. Don't know what we can do about that. Paragraph. I change this to like less than line width, like 0.9. What does that do? Didn't help much. I changed it above. So I wonder how you change this line afterwards. There we got it. Format shape again. See if I have any more choices. Nope. Maybe if we make it a little bigger, it'll be alright. Why is it complaining about this? I guess it doesn't like the extra spaces or something. Alright. Let's assume that that's good. What if we make this bigger? Does that help at all? No. Alright. Now, down here at the bottom, we have 2 addresses that I need to put in. And I'm not sure exactly what I want to use, so let me show you some samples I was playing with. If I open a document called addresses, here are some samples. And this was my address back when I just had a post office box here in Cherryfield. Then they came along and did enhanced 911 and everybody had to have an address, so they signed me an address. And now I have to use the address for UPS and I have to use the post office box for mail, so I cheat and I put the address, comma, box, post office box number. So these are the possibilities. On this one I did a tab between them. Notice here, I've got the paragraph marks turned on, and you can see that each of these are a single paragraph, and there's a tab that's a right justified tab that jumps all the way over here, and if you start typing, the text goes backwards, but it stays right justified. So that's one possibility. Another possibility was the one that I was using before, where the tab went out to a certain point. Looks like about 4.75 inches or something, and everything is left justified. And here's one where I used two tabs. I did a tab here out to about an inch or something that was centered, so everything I typed spread out from that point. And then the second tab jumped over to a point here that allowed the text on this side to spread out from this point. And actually, I think that looks kind of nice. If I turn off the paragraph marks, that's not bad at all. The only problem is that I have this set up with 1-inch margins where I really need I've got 1 1/4 inch margins, so my space is not as wide, so I'm going to have to change the definition of these tabs. But let's do that first. Let's change the definition of the tab. Let's right click here, say paragraph, go to tabs for this paragraph. You see I have two tabs. One is at 0.75 inches in from the left, and it's centered. The second one is 5.5 inches, and it's centered. But I really need that second one to be a 1/2 inch less, because I have a 1/2 inch less space in the letters. So I'm going to add a new tab at 5 inches. And it's going to be centered, so I'll say set. It jumps right in here. I'll remove this tab. I'll say OK. So now I think that this will be correct when I put into the other document. So let's see. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my potential letterhead, and I'll say paste. And it didn't do quite what I wanted. Did I mistype the tab? Go to paragraph, tabs. Somehow we got extra tabs in here. So we'll get rid of this one. We'll get rid of this one. I have no idea where they came from. There, that looks about the way I want it. Now we need to change the color of this to match the color up above. So I'll go back to the Home tab. If I just click on that, which is the last color I used, it changes the color to there. So that's good. Now it looks like I have two colors going on here. What color is this? Font. Oh, right here. Okay. So the color is this one, right? Now if I go to this line, cancel that, go to this line, and do the same thing. We go to font and look at the color. It looks like the same color. I guess just because it's a smaller font, it looks different. At this point, we can save this template. It's not done, but let's save it so it doesn't get lost. Now to create a template, remember this is just a regular document. We started from a normal document template. We're going to save it as a template. So we'll go up here, and I have a Save As icon right here. If I hover over it, it should say Save As, but it doesn't. But if I go to File, Save As, oh, that's why it wasn't working when I hovered. Now if I hover, I bet it'll say Save As. Yeah, see, Word has this funny habit that unless you click once, it doesn't know that it's in the Word document. I've got to click in it for the Word document to be active. So this is my Save As icon. You can also get there from File, Save As, if you don't have the icon. And we're going to save it in our normal place. And if I say I want to save it as a template, I can save it as a Word template, a .x, or I can save it as a Word template that has macros enabled. So I'm going to save it as one with macros in case I want to add macros later. So by saving it there, it automatically is going to change the location it saves it to. So I'm going to call this Letterhead. And I'm going to save it. And golly knows where it's saving it to, because I thought it would know. It's supposed to know. So the secret was not to say OneDrive, but to say this PC. And if you save it on this PC, it knows the location where your templates go. Got that? Tricky. So these are ones that are already there. So I'm going to say save. So now we have a template. And if we can use this template at this point, or I can go ahead and add the other stuff. So I'm going to continue on. I'm going to first put a date in. I want to put the date that I can use in other places. I want a magic date. And there's several ways to do this. Currently, I think the simplest way to do it is with a quick field. This button here was called Quick Parts. And if I click on Quick Parts, I can choose a document property. And these are names that are attached to all documents. And you can't change them, but you can use them any way you want. So I'm going to use the publish date as the date of the letter. And that's what I'm going to put there for the date. Now, I'm going to put a new line. I'm going to change the style of this letter. I'm going to go right here to Style, and I'm going to give it a sort of, I'm not going to use one of the standard styles up here. I'm going to give each of these things the date and the address field and the salutation and subject, and so I'm going to give them each their own style. Alright, I'm going to create a style. So to do that, I had to go to this button. I had to say create style. I'm going to call this style letter LTR date. And I'm going to modify the style. It knows that it's the font and the size, but I want to change the paragraph settings. So I click here to format, paragraph, and I want space before it. I want to drop down quite a bit for the date, and space after. We'll leave the space after at 8 points. And we'll say OK. So now, the date is not shoved right up against the template. Now here is where I would put the addressee's address. So I'm going to again assign a style by using this pull down, create a style. I'm going to call it letter. I just have to spell it correctly. Address. I'm going to modify it. Change the characteristic. I'm going to change paragraph. Once again, I'm going to put a little more space after the date. And when I was addressing letters before, I used to do this so I could fold it and use a envelope that the address would show through. So I would have to have this positioned so that it would fit perfectly in that envelope, and I'm not sure what the right answer was, but let's assume I'm trying to do that, and we'll play with that later on. And because it's the envelope, I'm going to put a little bit more space afterwards, and I'm going to say OK. So that's where the address goes, and maybe I'll type something here that you would change later. We'll see. Here's where I want the subject of the letter to be. And the reason I want the subject is that I want to use that subject on the next page's header. So I'll say subject, and then we'll use that magic insert again. Insert quick part, document property, and there's a subject. Okay. And then this is where I'd say dear John or whoever. So let's define this as, well, first of all, we never defined this field, so let's do that by selecting the line and then going to this little button, create a style. This is going to be the letter modify. We don't need too much space here. And this is the salutation. So, dear somebody or other. We'll do the same thing. We'll add a style for the salutation. Can't spell letter. I guess it's pretty much okay as it is. Just up this a little bit. And then this is the actual text of the letter. And what I might do is actually put the complementary close down here. We'll define a style for that. And here's my name. And I might insert my signature here as a graphic, and that way I wouldn't have to sign the, if I was sending this a PDF file, it would already be signed. So let's insert a graphic. I guess I have to put it on its own line, and then we'll worry about formatting afterwards. So I'm going to say insert picture, this device, and I think it's in this folder. And there's my 2-inch signature, scanned back in almost 30 years ago. So it's a little big, but if we resize it, and it's going to keep the aspect ratio, so that's good. So now I just have to play with the spacing of these two paragraphs. So this is the complementary close. So we'll give it a style. Letter close. Modify. Paragraph. Better. And then this is, well, first of all, in this paragraph, let's get rid of the space afterwards. So this is just my signature, and I think I can change it by clicking right there and going to paragraph settings and get rid of the 8 points here. That's better. And that's it. So we're good so far. Now all we need to do is worry about the headers on the next page. So let's go here, select all of this, copy. Let's go back here. Make this normal. I didn't mean, oh shoot, why there? I let these things come in here and I gotta undo that. I didn't mean to, I didn't uncheck the, let's see if I uncheck that, if it disappears. Yes. Too bad I didn't uncheck it when I was creating it to begin with. Maybe that wasn't even a choice. I don't know if there's some easier way to edit this style thing, but this worked. Alright, so this paragraph I want to be normal in case I ever do anything. And then I want to insert a page break just so I can get to that second page. Okay, and on the second page I want headers, and for the bottom header the footer, I want to insert what I copied, so that looks good. And here I want to insert the subject, so I think here I go back to insert, and I'll pick the same document property, which is subject, and after it I will put a tab, and I'll have to fix the tab so it goes to the right, and here I want my name, so that's probably the author name, and then I want a space and a bullet, Alt 0149, another space, and the date. So that was what have I done? Shoot. I'm going to undo this and so on. Let's try again. So tab. It's going to be a right justified tab in the end, but and now I'm going to put the bullet first. First I'm going to put in the bullet. See if this works. Put a space. I'll put the publication date. Put another bullet. I'll put another space, and I'll put page space and insert where's the page number? It's probably right over here somewhere. There we go. And back here, before here, I wanted the author. So this was click here, document property author. Good. All right. So now all I need to do is select this paragraph, change it style. So let's say that the style is header. Do we have header up here in this list? No. But I think it's one of the hidden styles. So let's do this pull down, and there's header. It was header. We'll click on modify, which is right here. And I'm going to change this to Peugeot Demi. And I will make it 14. And I will change the tab to, get rid of that tab. Ooh. I don't know where these are coming from, but that's alright. We'll clear these existing tabs and we'll put this one at 6 inches. Because after 6 inches plus 1 1/4 plus 1 1/4 is my 8-inch, 8.5 inch piece of paper. So I want this right justified. We'll say OK. We'll say OK. And so now that looks good. Now, what about this text? What font is it? It's in Calibra. Shall we do it in Peugeot Demi? Probably. So let's go here. Change the style for footer to be now, let's do this again. This font looks better if you use small caps. So if I go to Format, Font, one of the choices is small caps. And watch what happens when I do that. You see some of the letters, like the G is kind of down below, the I has a dot and so on. If I do small caps and say OK, see how it changes it? I like that better. So now let's go back to the first page and see what that footer looks like. It's already been updated because it had the style footer, and by updating the footer style everything was fine. Okay, so I think we have a good template. Let's try using it. So we're going to save it, and it knows already that it's a template and knows where to save it. We'll say save, and we'll close it. We'll close this. And now we'll say File New. Okay. Well, we want a personal template. Our template isn't up here yet. We'll say Personal. Now we have this one called Letterhead, the new one we just created. Watch what happens when we create the document based on that template. There it is. Okay. Now if whoops, I should have removed the page break from the template. I gotta go back and do that in a minute later. But for now, if we click here in this pull down, it knows what the date is, so we just click today, and that puts today's date in. We'll put in a subject of, what should we call it? Christmas trees. Oops. I shouldn't have done that. By the way, if we go back and modify each of these styles, if we were accidentally do that, we can change a style so that the next style is not, then if we do a new line, it automatically changes to the next style that we want. If you did a new line after letter date, it would change to letter address. So that's probably something valuable to do as well. I'll show you how to do that in a second. First of all, let's put the address in. So now that we have an address in, let's go look at the second page and see what it looks like. You see it has the subject, Christmas trees, already filled in. It has the correct date, and things look pretty good. We didn't use caps here, which we should have, so that's another change to make to the template. And we could actually change the template right here. If we say this is a small, we need to modify the footer template, and we do that by going back here to Home and Style. It's the header style. So we're going to modify, say modify, and we're going to look at the font. We're going to say small caps. And now, but here, now we want to apply this change to the template itself. So by saying new documents based on this template are also going to change, we don't have to go back and actually change the template. This will do it. Okay. Whoops, we lost the color. So let's go back here, modify. We need to change the color to the recent color and apply that to the template. Okay. Now why does that look different than these? This is the footer. Let's look at the footer. The color here. And why didn't that change the footer? Why don't these match? Because it still says automatic. Why does it say that? Oh, well now the color matches, but this has got the wrong. And why didn't this update? Well, there's more than one way to do it. Font color. Let's pick this color. And we'll say OK. Let's go back and undo a few things. Alright. So instead of changing the style for footer, let's just select the two individual ones. Let's select this one. Whoa! Accidentally. Had stuff selected and I hit italic and got in trouble, but undo got me out. So let's select this whole thing. Let's right click, go to font, pick the color, pick this color here, say OK. Okay. And now down here, the same thing. Right click, font, I'll pick a color, the recent color, say OK. Alright, so now the footers look correct in this document. We're not changing the template, so this is not going to help me. Anyway, let's get rid of the page break. You know that works. We can close this. Delete the page break. And there's our letter. And if we just save that as a sample letter, save as, or save, it's going to put it in our documents folder by default. Do you want to save changes to the document template? Yes. Okay, so let's see what really changed in the document template. Let's close this. Let's go play open. Here's the letterhead template. Okay. Font color is good there. I think everything is the same, or we wouldn't have this filled in. Okay. And here, select this, right click, font. Font color is not correct. We'll click here. Now it's correct. Save. Good. Let's go here. We'll select the whole thing. Font. Font color. Okay. Now, is this the correct color? I think it is. But just to be sure, we will put a font. Yeah, it has the correct color. Okay, so now I think my template is correct, exactly the way I want it, and we're good. Do save. saving the template itself, and we'll close it up. And just to check it, we'll do File, New, Letterhead, and there it is. And the color, it's faint because header and footer are not selected. If we click up here, then we see them in their proper color. And we needed to also remove the page break. We forgot to do that, so we failed. All right, we don't want to save that. Let's go back and add it to template again. So don't feel bad that you have trouble too. As you see, I forget myself. Okay, now the template is only one page to start with. And this is the normal style, yes. Okay, we're good. Save. Now maybe, when we create a letter. So File, New, Letterhead. It's only one page. Everything looks correct. And we put in the publish date by clicking here, do the pull down, say the day, but you can put in any day you want for the date of the letter. And when you put in the subject, it will appear here and on other pages of the document in the header. That's how you create a template. Well, that all took long enough, but I hope you learned something. See you later.